Okay, I don't do intros. You clicked on this video for a reason. Let's go. Audiobooks can feel like such a cheat code at first. I mean, you can listen to one way faster than you can actually read a book. And you can just throw it on when you're doing anything. Except if you're actually concerned with retaining what you listen to or read, you figure out pretty quick that it takes some effort to make anything from audiobooks actually stick in your head and not just go in one ear and out the other. This video is my recommendations on how to do that the best way possible. So content matters. I think the actual content of what you're reading matters quite a bit. If you're listening to some fiction book like Brandon Sanderson, like my one friend is obsessed with, granted, I don't know if there's anything like sound effects or different voice actors, yada yada, that make it more interesting or better than just reading it yourself. Mainly because I've never listened to anything that isn't performative male adjacent. But if you're reading for a story, personally, I think you're probably just better off reading a physical book. This is angle that the non-fiction self-improvement type poisoned individuals like myself. So, part 2, listen with intention. Multitasking is fake and a scam. Don't do it. If you think you're retaining more than 10% of the TED Talk or interview that you threw on your second monitor while booting into a Risk of Rain 2 run, you're lying to yourself. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be in a lotus pose, deeply entranced by what you're listening to 100% of the time. You can do some alternative activities, but the bulk of your mental effort has to be focused on what you're listening to. Some things I do while listening to audiobooks is stuff like cleaning my room, sweeping my work area, rote physical jobs that I've done 1,000 times in the past. And make sure that you have the opportunity to do the next part, being take notes. Now, listen, I hated taking notes in school, but it really is just the goat, unfortunately. Writing things down physically with your hands is best, be it chalk and slab or pad and pen. But writing things down inherently is your brain interacting and comprehending with the information again, making it easier to remember and pull back from your memory. It doesn't have to be crazy. My notes for every book I read or listen to is just me finding quotes that I think are really good or phrases that I think are really applicable and transcribing them into my notes app on my phone. And I only write down things that I really resonate with, or I think are just a great summation of things I'd like to do better and implement. Part 4, don't overdo it. I don't listen to any given audiobook for more than an hour a day. That's because the amount of time that I have to dedicate to it and my capacity for actually listening to it dedicatedly and retaining things is only for about an hour. Doing it in short bursts across larger amounts of time will also help you retain the information, as you'll be mentally retreading the same ground that you've been the last couple days. This will also help with trying not to fit it into everything you do, is having downtime where you can just think about stuff, otherwise known as emotional processing, is going to be way more impactful on a day-to-day basis than anything you will ever get out of a book. So make sure you leave yourself some time in the day to hang out with yourself. Next, skim your notes. Every once in a while, just run back through. Just skim them, kind of remember what you were thinking or feeling when you wrote the stuff down. Make sure you haven't forgotten what you didn't want to forget. It's really that simple. Short aside, this video is not sponsored by short-form, but I have used it for a bit, and it can be a good supplement to your notes. It's definitely not a complete replacement for actually reading a book, nor is listening to an audiobook. But I have found that short form can be pretty valuable in exactly what it sets out to do. It's giving you lessons from a book in a very condensed manner, also having additional connective tissue to other literature, giving you a more complete view of scientific ideas. But on a final note, I think it's very important to recognize when to ignore both mediums. And to do that, I will tell you a story. I was a big reader in middle school. There was a thing in my homeroom where you'd track all the books that you read, and you could put your name up on the front board if there was a word count. Like, if your word count was over 1 million, which I hit. But after that, I kind of just stopped reading books. There was no real flashpoint for me where I just started hating books or anything. I just stopped. And moving forward, I actually kind of took pride in that. The closest I got to finishing a book was Animal Farm by George Orwell, which I read in, I think it was my 10th grade English class. I remember that pretty vividly, because the page count was like 120, 130, somewhere in that ballpark. It was a pretty short read, and I was actually really enjoying it. But I didn't read the last 10 pages, because I wanted to keep my streak going. Fast forward to next year, and we had to write a book report on books that we read over the summer, pretty standard. I did not do that. So I just grabbed my mom's copy of The Godfather, read the first 30 pages, skimmed the rest, and I just decided to YOLO it. Now, I got a lot wrong, as pointed out by the essay of red pen corrections on the margins of my pages, correcting my confusion of multiple characters, ordering of plot lines, but I've always been pretty good at playing the school game, YOLOing stuff like that rather often. I say that because I have evidence. I got an 83 on that book report when I didn't read the book, and the teachers were gigantic fans of the book, as evidenced by them having a poster of the cover literally in their room, front and center, that I just missed before I picked the book. And I say all that because I still got a higher grade than my friend, who is an avid reader and not stupid by any means, and he actually read his book, but I still got a higher grade. Somehow. This story is a tale of a bygone era. In the age of ChatGPT, none of this is real, and none of this will matter. It will all be essays written by AIs and reviewed by AIs. But I tell you this because I think it's representative of where I'm making this video from. I didn't read a single book for like 7 years. That changed when last year I decided I kind of wanted to start reading a little bit more, and I got The Art of the Impossible just on a whim. I can't explain it, but it felt like the book was calling out to me. It took probably 6 to 8 months of on and off reading for me to actually get through it, not because I wasn't enjoying it, far from it. It just took me that long because I wasn't taking the time to dedicatedly read it every day. Once I did, I was through it in like 2 weeks. One of the parts that really stuck with me is the author's explanation for density of information in a text, since the book is all about learning how to get really good at stuff. In theory, reading is one of the best ways to do that. But read what? Dude, books are just coded. You can read the figures I've got here. I mean, blogs equate to about... It takes you 3 minutes to read it, and that gets you about 3 days worth of information. Articles take about 20 minutes to read, and they get you 4 months worth of information. Books take you about 5 hours on average and get you 15 years. The ROI is crazy. It's not close. It blows everything out of the water. And another note to add here. I read the book, then I got short form afterwards, and I read the short form article on it. And my review of that is that the short form article summarizes the application part of the book well, but the soul of the book was lost. The author's emotions and stories were lost in translation to the short form version of it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but personally, I think it would have been a disservice to myself to not read that book. Which segues well into my final point. What do I do? Something I did about a month ago, because this is my 4th time recording this video. I wanted to start listening to a new audiobook, since I just wrapped one up last week. I've had Man Search for Meaning on my radar for a while since I'd heard about this whole logotherapy shebang, and I got interested. It sounds a lot like what Dr. K talks about. I was also scrolling Spotify's section for audiobooks, and I misread the title of the other book and that it was written by Jordan Peterson. I mean, it's close, man. Just look at the author name. It's close. And I just saw it on the algorithm from Spotify, and I said, this has to be a generational read. Now, I won't say which, but one of them I started, and I wrote down about 60% of everything in the preface section and the intro. And the whole time I was just thinking, this dude is spitting so hard, I can't believe how much he's describing literally me. I walked away from the intro feeling immediately like I have to read this. This book is going to change how I perceive and operate in the world around me. And I stopped listening to it. I got the book, and I've been doing pretty much the exact same thing for the rest of it. I'm about halfway done with it now. The other one, I had to pause for a minute because it cites Mark Wahlberg as a primary source. I will let you figure out which was which.